That
Yeah,
working?
it's started there now,
Great.
yes.
Okay, so today we're going to do some Microsoft Excel training, this is the first session, and there may be a requirement for a second one, so we can do a further one afterwards. So the Digital Health Office, just to let you know, our office provides advice and guidance around ICT and digital health. We are not part of the OCIO or the health department, so we can't help you with printers or laptops or ordering. That's not our area, but we can signpoint you if you need advice or support in terms of training or looking at ways of putting new systems into where you work. So we're working with staff and service users to try and use digital technology a little bit more, and we're also working with all other kind of services in the community to try and promote digital integrated care. So that's us. Our email is digitalhealthch08@hse.ie. You'll see it on the slide. And the best thing to do is just, if you have a query, drop an email to that and someone will follow up with you shortly afterwards. So we will send you these slides, and we'll be also sending notes on the topics that we cover after today as well. So you're very welcome, and we hope you enjoyed the training. So today we will be doing a kind of an overview of the main features of Excel. So for those of you who completed the little survey, we asked you what you used Excel for. Nearly everybody who responded used it kind of to keep a list of clients, a list of their names and addresses and features like that, dates of birth. So we'll be going through kind of it in terms of the main features that you might be using if you're using spreadsheets like that. The chat function is for questions, and I'll go through that in a couple of seconds, how you can put in questions in chat. There's a couple of people joining now as well. We are going to record the session. So if for whatever reason you can't work along with us during this session, it will be recorded. We'll send you a link and you can follow it on YouTube afterwards. Okay. So what we would ask is everybody could go on mute if they could. And the content we'll be covering today are the kind of basics really of setting up a spreadsheet properly, and lots of tips and tricks that you probably didn't realize if you haven't done formal training around Excel. We'll go through the main features, an overview of the main features. We'll be looking at filtering, formulae, how you subtotal between sheets, and kind of giving you a good overview of what we can do in Excel. So it is kind of a demonstration. We're not physically in the room with you, so we can't go around and check what you're doing, but I will work at a pace that will allow you to kind of work with me. But if you are having difficulties, we unfortunately can't get into the computer and go down and help you. But you know, you can follow it up with us later if it's something that you missed that you really wanted to go over or to learn. Just drop us an email, and we'll cover that content today. So just a couple of key things really just to understand. So Excel is a spreadsheet application. It's one of the Microsoft packages, and it's very widely used across all the world. Microsoft Word is for typing documents and letters and reports. Microsoft Excel is for holding data. Okay, so a spreadsheet is the diagram here you can see on the front is a typical spreadsheet. It has headings across the top, and it has data in the little cells or the little boxes. It's not very good for filling out detailed text information. You know, that's probably better suited to a Word document. People often confuse the terms spreadsheets and databases. So a database is not, Microsoft Excel is not a database. Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet that can store information in cells, can do calculations, kind of like a ledger, your old ledger backing bookkeeping, only electronic and much more versatile. A database is something that is created in a file like Microsoft Access or SQL or FileMaker. They're all database applications. And the main difference really between spreadsheets and databases are a spreadsheet cannot be shared easily. So if you have a list of clients and you wanted between all of you to share a central list of clients, you need a database to do that. A spreadsheet is really not used for multiple people to share or to amend at the same time. In lots of ways, they look the same, but they are quite different. So that's just something to note. And the spreadsheet is usually used for calculations if you're doing totals or summing, but it can count functions, and it's used a lot for KPIs and templates, and that's probably where you've used Excel mostly, is if you're sent templates to fill in on a monthly basis, or you're trying to kind of gather information around KPIs, around activity and things like that. So for Excel, unfortunately for us in community services, Excel is probably the thing we have most, because we don't have any other systems. So if you can use Excel to its fullest, and that's what we're here to help you with, you can really make a big difference in terms of how you hold your data, how you store it, and how you use it to kind of give information to your managers, or, as I said, kind of KPIs and things like that. So today, as I said, is a kind of an overview of Excel, but if there is a need, if ye as a group feel you all want to set up a client register the same way, or if there is some particular spreadsheet you'd like to work together as a group on, and we can help you with that. We can assist with formulas, and that's a separate piece. It's not really a training piece. We could meet you separately on that, and we could work with you as a group to design something that you're all using the same thing, and it kind of makes it easier when you're sharing information. So that's just a little overview on that. So we're going to go into the spreadsheet itself now. So I'm just going to change the sharing. Give me a moment. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to share our first spreadsheet, and we're going to start with the sheet called Overview. So Olivia from my office would have attached a spreadsheet. I'm going to zoom this up because depending on where you're looking at it, Excel is hard to see at the best of times. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to advise you, if you have any questions that come up throughout the training, there's a little chat function. So at the very top of the Teams window that you're looking in, you'll see an icon for people, and you'll see an icon for chat. And I'm going to just press the chat button. And down at the bottom right hand of the screen, you'll see a little box comes up, type a new message. And if you have a question, you just type it in here. How do I print on one page? And you hit the little triangle button. So you can, by all means, if you want to practice the chat, this is a training session. So if you want to put questions in there, even if you're just trying it out, feel free to do so. So Olivia will keep an eye on the questions. We'll run through. I'll take my time for people who want to run with me, and we will start. Okay. So before we get going, if you can see at the top of your screen, there's also a button called Reactions. So it's beside the chat. So if you press Reactions now, there's a little hand icon, and I want you to click on the button that has a hand on it. It says Raise Hand. So if you can see that screen, if the visual is okay of the Excel spreadsheet, I just want you to press that hand so that a little hand appears by the screen. Excellent. Okay. Okay. So hi Niamh, you just joined us. We're just about to start the training session. So there's a couple of people who don't have their hands up, so I'm not sure if they're there or if they're figured out, but the majority rules, so I'm going to proceed. Okay. Okay, so what we can see on screen here now is a classic spreadsheet. Okay, up at the very top, you'll see the name of the spreadsheet, and it's called Overview Demo Sheet. That's just the title of it. So when I saved the spreadsheet, that's the name I gave it. And across the top, you'll see your menu options. So you have File, you have Home, and Home is where most people hang out in Microsoft applications. Okay, so the home page is because everything really is on this ribbon. So we're going to spend a little bit of time just quickly going through that in a minute. You have Insert, which allows you to insert different things into your spreadsheet. You have Page Layout, which is all about the look and the feel and how you print and how you keep the headings on. And a lot of you were interested in learning a little bit more about that. Formulas, as I said, the spreadsheet is really designed for formulas and calculations. The data is how you can improve how your data is recorded and stored. Review is how it looks, and view is just the view of the spreadsheet on the screen itself. Okay. So I'm going to just stay on the home menu. So if anyone's working with me, just make sure you open the overview demo sheet that was sent to you today. And we're just going to have a look at it. Okay, so again, across the top, you'll see columns A, B, C, D, E, and they go on for 256 across. Okay, the rows are the numbered rows down along the sides. Okay, and if you really needed to, they go on down to 64,000 rows in every spreadsheet. So what you see here on screen, so I'm going to highlight this area, is really only a fraction, a tiny fraction of what a spreadsheet can do. Okay, and very often if you haven't used Excel before, people think it's like Word, and they're trying to type sentences and headings and big long pieces of text. So spreadsheets are designed for headings and small amounts of data. Okay, they're not designed for textual or text reports. Okay, so the really important thing to know in Excel is it's in the name. So Excel, so cell, C-E-L, is the name of this little block. I'm moving the mouse around. So every cell has its own little space, and it's like reading maps kind of coordinates. So I'm clicked in the cell G4 at the moment, and G is highlighted, 4 is highlighted, and over here in the very top left-hand corner, you'll see G4 is highlighted. So that always tells you where you are on your spreadsheet. Okay. Up at the very top, A1 is the very top of your spreadsheet, and down at the very end, you can keep going on and on and on. Okay. So that's the kind of layout of a cell, and you put numbers in each different ones. Okay. If you're typing headings in Excel, try not to type them too long. Okay. So I might put clients who attend day services. That's not a good heading for Excel. Okay, it's too big, it's too wordy. Okay, so you might abbreviate it to day service clients. So just think about your headings and what you're calling them, because you really don't want headings to be too long in Excel. Okay, so even as I type in DS clients there, you can see that the clients is spilling over into the next cell. So an easy tip to adjust the column to make it fit is you hold your mouse up between the G and the H columns, so this one, and double click, and it will size it exactly to what you need. So again, if I just type in a very long heading and I want it to adjust, I just double click and it sizes it exactly. So that can come in very handy when you have lots of headings and you want to size them quickly without dragging and dropping. Other ways you can move the cursor is to drag and to drop. Okay, but that can be a little bit painful. The double clicking moves it exactly. Okay, so when people go from Word to Excel, the thing they find most unsettling is, sorry, I'm just going to turn off my email, apologies, is the way the cursor moves. So if you look now, you can see my mouse is moving around the screen, and it's a white cross, a thick white cross. When I click into a cell, it turns into a cursor, which allows me to type. And it won't allow me out of that cell until I hit return. So the return key lets the cell know that you're finished typing. Okay, so by all means, if you want to mess around, you can do that. When you move your cell up at the column heights, at the rows at the side, it adjusts the size of them. Again, if you adjust them too much by double clicking, it adjusts them back properly. Okay, so when you're adjusting, the kind of cursor turns into a black cross, an arrow, as you can see at the top of the screen here. Okay, so very often when people say things don't work in Excel, so I'm after typing some text here at the bottom. When you're typing, if you look up here to the home page, everything is grayed out. Nothing is working because Excel knows that you're in typing mode. So you don't need any of these things because you're still typing. And it's not until I hit return that they all light back up again. Okay. So if you want to apply your bolds or your colors or your borders to any one of these cells, you click on the cell and you might want to change it to red text. You might want to add a yellow background. You might want to make it bold and underline. Word of warning, never use yellow. You can see how horrible that is to look at. It might look nice from your point of view, but keep the colors to a minimum in Excel. Okay, there are different shading options, which are often a lot better in Excel to add shade. And most of us have kind of black and white printers anyway, so it's only on screen that you're going to see the color. I'll show you nice ways to format your table very easily, and that won't offend anybody who's receiving your spreadsheets. So there's very quick ways to make them look pretty. So the cursor is very important. So again, when I'm highlighting on one cell, what I can do is I can actually move that cell if it's in the wrong place. And to move it, I hold my mouse over the edge of the cell and I drag it. Okay, so that's sometimes handy too if you haven't organized your data in the right way or your cells or you want to move them around. But if you move it on top of something else, it'll say there's something here, do you want to replace it? And if you do, you say okay. So that happens very commonly. You're trying to highlight and drag and you end up moving it. And that's all that's happened, is you have clicked on the edge of the cell rather than in the middle. So if you want to highlight, you always move the cell to the middle and then you can click and drag, just like in Word. So if you're new to Excel, it's definitely worth just messing around and getting familiar with in a safe place that's not messing up your spreadsheet. And to delete the cells, I'm just clicking on the cell and I can hit the delete button to empty them. Okay. So that's the cursor really, and that's the kind of the kind of basic stuff. We will be getting into more detailed stuff now, but they're the important things if you're starting out for the first time. Any text that you type in Excel appears in the cell, but also appears up here. So if you want to add in texts, day services in October, you can add it up at the top in that little bar, or you can add it into cell itself. Okay, you kind of just double click at the end of the cell to start typing again, and then again you must always hit return. Okay, so that's just kind of basics of the cells. Okay, a couple of things. If you have information in the spreadsheet and you want to highlight it all, always click at the beginning where your data starts, drag across and down or down and across. Don't highlight the columns. Okay, say you're putting on bold or red. If you highlight the column, you're highlighting all the way down to 64,000. And there's no need to do it. Or if you're putting on borders, for example, if I want to put in a border here, that's putting a border all the way down right till nearly infinity on your information. So the undo button is your biggest friend in all Microsoft products. It's up beside the save button. So when you press undo, it takes away that little border. Okay, and it's the same with the rows. If I put a border all across that row, that will print out, and that will print about 60 pages that you don't need because the border thinks there's something there. Okay, so just be careful when you're highlighting, is only highlight what you want to the patch that you want to make a change to. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through the home ribbon just to make sure you're familiar with everything there. Okay, so at the very top, you'll see the home button is showing up in white here. You have your cut, copy, and paste, and that's the very same as in Word. Okay, so if you want to move something, you cut it, you click where you want it to go, and you paste. Copy is the same. Okay. Format Painter, if you've ever used this before. So what Format Painter does is if I have a nice shade of blue and a nice shade of orange on my background here, and I want to copy this format onto these headings over here. Okay, I click once on the format I want to copy, I press Format Painter, and a little paintbrush appears. Okay, and now wherever I click this paintbrush, it's going to copy that formatting onto it. That's in Word as well. It's very, very handy if you want the same headings all the time. Again, wouldn't use orange and blue as headings in Excel, but it's just for demo purposes today. So the next few options are all the formatting. So the font size, the font type, the bold, italic, underline. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. So again, wherever you click, you can change the font easily, the size, okay? But if you're not clicked anywhere, if you don't highlight anywhere, they're not going to work, okay? What are very handy are these two little buttons, okay? At a push of a button, they increase the font size and decrease it, and it saves you having to pick which one. And that's very good in Excel, because very often Excel is very visual, and if you want to make it bigger really quickly or smaller really quickly, they're really helpful. Okay. Borders are something that are very important in Excel, okay? And often people want to do a border like you'll see on the screen here. And there's a selection of borders in here, okay? So depending on what you want, if you want it at the bottom and the top here like this one, you just drop it down and you can just experiment with them, okay? You can put on a bottom one, you can put on a thick one, okay? And they're just kind of for visual. And again, your undo button will do those, okay? Some people want borders on because it shows up in printing. So that's a very common thing that people want to do. So again, you just highlight the piece that you want to print, and if you put in all borders, that shows up kind of a print piece like that if you want to do that. Okay. Shading, as I said, is there. Be careful with it. Kind of use more in the grayscales if you're going shading. And again, I'll show you a nice little handy way of shading and making your tables look pretty in a moment. The font color, again, don't use yellows. Keep to the dark navies and blacks at all possible, because if you do it in anything lighter, the likelihood is you're not going to see it when it's printed. Okay, you have the bold or the center adjustments, center, middle and left and right alignment. And also you can adjust where the information is in each cell. Again, this is usually used kind of in finances, where you want them either in the bottom or the top of the cell. Okay, I'm just going to show you this for a demo. So here's my cell, so I can put it in the middle, I can put it at the bottom. Okay, it's just, and again, if you've very tight cells, you don't even need to do that, but that's just what those buttons are for. This little button here, the A-B button, is very useful, okay? Because sometimes you do have longer headings and you want to fit them all in one page, okay? So I'm going to click on my April heading here. And if you click on the A-B button, what it does, it allows you to kind of shift the text up at different angles. So I'm going to click on the first button here, and that allows me to put the April up on its side, and it allows me to squash more information in. So very often if you're doing the months of the year, that's a really handy way of kind of making more space, or making more space on your page. And you just press it off again if you want to put it back, okay? But you can mess around with those in your own time. You can put them vertically. Vertical is very hard to read, okay? So just be careful with the vertical ones. But that first option, angle clockwise, is quite commonly used, okay? So you can use that if you need to. Indenting is the same as in Word, and very rarely I would use it in Excel, but you can indent within the cell, but the cell is quite tiny, so you know, it's very rare you'd need to use that. The next one that's very important is called the merge and center button. Okay, so very often if you're creating a spreadsheet in Excel, you will have a heading like I have here, expenses, and I'm just going to delete this cell for a moment, get rid of that formatting. Okay, so to here is as the width of my spreadsheet. So very often what we use this button is it merges the heading and the top tab at the top tab, and centers it across your information, and it just makes your spreadsheet look well. So if you're doing a yearly planner, okay, or a budget, you would put your heading in your first cell. Okay, so if anyone wants to do this with me, I'm going to start again. So expenses is in the first cell, and if you click and move your mouse across to the end of that green section, so from A to E, and if you press merge and center, it centers your heading quite nicely across the top. Okay, so that's just what the merge and center button does. And if you don't want it, you can click it off. So Excel is like a light switch, most of the stuff. How you turn it on and off, it's the same button, like a light switch. Okay. Wrap text I'll come back to in another example, and because this is quite commonly used as well, but I have kind of figures here and short amounts of text, so I won't show you that. Okay, so that's merge and center. Okay, so again, the next part is quite important as well. Okay, so here we're looking at the format of our information in Excel, and we're looking at the general, where it says general, and if you drop down that heading, okay, what you'll see is a list of different options that you can have for your information or your data in Excel. So the default one is set at general, and this means it can be numbers or letters. It's not specific, okay? If you pick the number format, it only wants whole numbers, okay? So like the information I have in my expenses sheet here, the numeric data here is in number format, okay, with 2 decimal points. If you want to store money, you put in currency. If you want to store accounting, if you're using for accounting, you can use accounting. They're very similar. If you're storing dates, you can use a short date or a long date. If you're recording times, you can use the time function. Percentages, fractions, scientific, all sorts of formulae and kind of ways that you want to store your data. So the important thing in Excel is that if you're storing numbers, that you never put text information into these columns or comments. If this is a text heading like travel, hotels, meals, you never put numbers in there. So your data should always kind of be in either numbers, text, currency, dates, times. They're the kind of main sort of things that you're going to be using. Okay, and the important thing for you if you're setting up spreadsheets or you already have spreadsheets is if I type in today's date, okay, so it's the 9th of the 6th, 22, and I press return, it automatically puts a format on it. But you might type it 9.06.2022, okay? What you can do is if your dates are in all different formats, okay, so you might type in 10-1-1999, okay? You can highlight all your dates if they're in already, and you can apply your date format after the fact. Didn't like the dots there. So if you have a mixture of dates, okay, it will change them to the same format in one go, okay? So again, if I put on the long date now, it changes them. So Excel is really about putting in the same data the same way all the time, and that's not always easy. But these little tricks can help you apply different formats after the fact. Okay, so it's particularly useful for dates, and sometimes if you're trying to add things or some things in formulas and you have text in where the numbers are, your formulas won't work. So you have to be really rigid and keep your number data in your number columns, your text in your text, your date in your date, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's really important. So I'm just going to show you some of that stuff in action now. So if I highlight my April figures, so again, I'm just clicking on the first cell and I'm holding down the mouse and highlighting it. And if I pick currency here, automatically it adds in the euros and the cents. So you never have to type that in. If you're putting in monetary amounts, just type them in numbers and the decimal points and it'll apply the currency after. Okay. You can also put in whether they're euro, pounds and stuff like that. So you can change that automatically as well, just from that little currency tab. Okay, percentages, I won't be kind of covering today because they're if we get time, we might do a percentage formula, or if anybody wants to focus on that, you just pop it up in the questions and I'll go through that. And decimal points, these two buttons can either decrease them or increase them. But be very, very careful. If you are putting in decimal points and you have money figures in, if you decrease them, it will round them up. So just be careful of that. Okay, it'll kind of increase your figure. So my 155, when I decrease the decimal, it rounds it up if it's over the 5 mark. Okay. So your format is very, very important. And again, if you have mixed stuff in columns and you're trying to add them, it won't work. Okay. Conditional formatting is really, really handy, and it's really, really straightforward. And I'm just going to show you a little demo of it here. Okay. So I'm going to highlight my block of numbers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if anybody spent more than €800 in expenses across these, I want it to show up in red, okay, because they've gone way over their budget. Okay, so when I go into conditional formatting, I click on that bar, and the first option allows me to highlight cells. Okay, so I'm going to highlight cells where the values are greater than, and I'm going to type in 800 into the little box that appears. Okay. And what it tells me is if it finds cells that the value is greater than 800, it's going to show it up in light red fill with dark red text. Now you can mess around, that you can pick whatever colors you want to show. But again, if it's something you want to highlight, your red is usually your best bet. Okay. So when I click off that, it has picked up, this one is showing up as red. And the good thing is if I change this one to 801, it too will pick it up because I've applied that formatting in advance, and it'll change each time. And if you want to reduce the value, so say you want to highlight anyone that spends more than €700. Okay, actually I'll just pick that up. Okay, use here, I just put in 100. Okay, automatically it's showing up all those people who are in red. So that's really, really handy. There's loads of rules you can use in there. But again, the highlight ones are the ones I've used most commonly. Okay. It can also highlight if figures are less than a certain number, if they're between 150, if you're looking for text that contains a particular word or a date. And a very common one is if there's duplicate values. So if you have a big long list of clients and you wonder if there's any duplicate values in there, you can go in there and mess around. And now when they say duplicate, it means if Carol McCann is showing up in one cell and then identically Carol McCann is showing up in the other, it'll find it for you. So that's really, really, really handy as well. Okay. The next option is format as table. And again, this is just, again, a nice little feature that you can change the way your table, your information in Excel looks. So it gives you a little suite of colors and formatting. And I would stick to the kind of ones on the top. Okay, so you pick an option and it adjusts your columns. Okay, now that looks terrible because I have my red formatting in place, but you can mess around them yourselves and delete it. Now it's put in an extra column there. I'm just going to turn that off again. Just see, put in grey ones. So for some reason it's adding in a column there, but we can just delete that if we need to. Okay, so we're coming on to deleting columns now, and I'll go through that in a second. Okay, all right. That's just not going for me. Okay. So they're very much about how your spreadsheet looks and feels. These are styles, which we won't be getting onto today, but again, these are kind of just like preset styles that you can add to particular cells and headings. But they're kind of more in kind of financial and values area, so we won't be putting them on today, but they are there. Really important is to know how to insert rows, columns, sheets, delete column sheets, format them, all that type of thing. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that now. Okay. So if I wanted to add in another column, you always have to tell your spreadsheet where you want it to go. Okay, so if I click over here, it's going to add in another column over here, but that's not where I want it to do. So I want to add in a column beside B. Okay, so I click anywhere in my B column and I press insert. Okay, so I can insert a row. Okay, and it inserts a row above. If I insert column, it inserts a column to the left of where I want to be. Okay, if that's not what you wanted, press undo, and you'll say, actually, I have to click into C. I want to add a column. So I add in a column, and it adds one to the left of where I want to go. That can be confusing. So again, I would really advise to mess around even for 20 minutes after this training, because you'll be so busy with your other stuff you'll forget about it. But just to mess around yourself in a document that doesn't mean anything, or is not going to crash on you, just mess around with inserting columns and rows just to see and get a feel for it yourself. Okay. The next one is so you can insert cells as well. It's the same thing, but insert rows and columns are your main ones that you want to do. The next thing you want is to look at inserting worksheets. Okay, so I'm just going to draw your attention to the bottom left-hand corner of the spreadsheet. So when you open a spreadsheet, automatically it opens, and it opens on the very first sheet. Okay, it doesn't do it here because this is a pre-designed one, and it's called sheet 1. So I want you to look down at your sheets, and you'll see there's 4 sheets there. Okay, there's a summary sheet, there's the John Brown sheet that we worked on, Mary Cunningham, Pádraig Doherty. Okay, so this is called, what this workbook up here is called Overview Demo Sheet, but it's actually a workbook. So it's actually like, this is the book, this is the name of the book, and down below here are the names of the pages in the book. So some of you might have KPIs that you do for every month of the year. So you should have one sheet that says KPIs, and then you should have one tab or worksheet for January, February, March, April, May. There's no need for you to have 12 separate worksheets. Okay, they can all be contained in it. The same if you wanted to store information about buildings, or if you were storing information about staff or clients or KPIs. There's no reason, especially for KPIs, that each staff member would have the exact same KPI sheet, but just their names would be different at the bottom. Okay, so worksheets are very important. You can add in loads of these, as many as you want. Okay, and as you click between them, you can see it changes the difference. So the way I've set these up is that they're in the exact same location. Okay, this is really important if you're working across worksheets. So the expenses here starts in cell A2, and in Pádraig Doherty's it starts in cell A2. So if you're doing something like KPIs and you want to subtotal them, what you do is you set up one sheet properly, okay, with your headings and your activity and your indirects and your non-directs. You set up one perfectly, and then you copy that into each staff members in the exact same location. Okay, and again, something like this, if you want us to work with you after this to set up something like this with you, we can support you to do that, because it's very hard to kind of demo it in training. Today's just showing you what Excel might be able to do for you in your jobs. Okay, so what you can do then is, if I have John and Mary and Pádraig Doherty, I have all their expenses information. What I can do then is I can create a summary sheet at the beginning, and I can automatically add in John's, Mary's and Pádraig's data across these 3 months. Okay, so I'm going to demo that in a little while, but it's just to show you why you would use different worksheets in the first place. Okay, so if you're working along with me, you can just click into each of these sheets, and I'm going to show you a few little tips and tricks about them. Okay, so the first thing to do is you can move these sheets very easily. You say I'm on the John Brown sheet now. I can press down my mouse and a little white page occurs, and I can drag and drop these wherever I want. So it's very handy if you're doing week 1, week 2, week 3, and you forget week 4, you can just rearrange them after. Okay, so if you're working with me, we're going to add a new worksheet. Okay, and we're going to press, there's a couple of ways of doing it. There's 3 or 4 ways of doing everything in Excel, but the easiest way is down here. You press that button and it adds in sheet 1 into the middle of the mix here. Okay, so I'm going to call this Jack Jill. Okay. So all I did was I double clicked where it said sheet 1, I double clicked, I typed in Jack space Jill and then hit return, and then it takes. So again, in Excel, it doesn't know you're finished typing or finished until you hit return, and then it brings you back into the sheet. Okay, you can get, so again, you can drag and drop them in the correct order as you need them. Okay, Jack's sheet is empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into one of the other ones, Mary Cunningham's. I'm going to highlight all her information. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to click back into Jack's and click on A2, and then I'm going to paste. So again, if you're setting up something that you want a subtotal for all your staff or for all your buildings or whatever, this is kind of giving you a gist of how to do it. Okay. So if you want to color code, if you're very creative, you can add colors. So you can right click on your little sheet tab and you can add blue, you can add red, you can add all sorts. Okay. And again, it's okay to add color there because that helps you kind of see different colors. The color doesn't take place until you click off it. So you're thinking it hasn't worked, but until when you click off them, it shows up as working. Okay, so you can add up as many sheets as you want. If you right click, you can hide sheets. Okay, so if I hide them, and if you right click again, you can unhide them. Okay, and you can pick which ones you want to unhide. Okay, you can insert sheets from here, you can delete sheets, you can rename sheets, you can move them. Protecting sheets we mightn't do today, but if you want to stop people from messing with the columns or the headings, you can do that. You can highlight all sheets together if you want it, okay, and print them all or make them bold or whatever. Again, just be careful when you're doing that, but you can do that together, okay? So the right click in Excel always can show you lots of different things. So again, if I just move out onto the sheet, when you right click, you can cut and copy from there. You can insert a row or column. It's like your shortcut cut to all the most important things that you want to do. Okay. So I'm nearly at the end of the ribbon. So what we've gone through so far is we've gone through kind of formatting, the way your data should look, a little bit of formatting the tables or the cells. We know how to insert and delete columns. We know how to add worksheets and mess around with them and how they work. So the last couple of things we're going to focus on is very basic formulae. Okay, so formula, and this is where Excel comes into its own. Okay, so I am going to just show you a couple of formula where they hang out. Okay, so up just past where we were with the insert and delete buttons over at the top, kind of right, there's like an Egyptian shaped E, Sigma, I think is the name of it. Okay, and AutoSum is showing up on it. And below that, if you drop it down, these are the most commonly used formula in Excel. Okay, so we have the sum, which is adding numbers in columns and rows, getting the average, counting. Okay, if you want to count how many clients, it can count how many clients are in cells. What's the maximum? What's the minimum? There are millions, I won't say millions, but there are hundreds of functions. Okay, and they're mathematical. You can do if statements, you can count, you can do all sorts of mathematical ones, but really helpful ones that I will send to you after today. But how to calculate someone's age from their date of birth, how to calculate an age range, you know, so if they're born on today's date, are they in the 0 to 6 category or the 0 to 5? So Excel is very mathematical, but it's once you know what to do, it's quite easy to find a formula to match what you need to do. Okay, and another really important thing that I always show everybody in Excel is this little light bulb. So it's up just at the very top here where I'm circling. Tell me what you want to do. So this is the help function, and it's really, really brilliant in Excel. Okay, so if you want to calculate age from date of birth, okay, you click in that and it'll actually give you the formula. If you want to lock cells in a page, you just type that in there, and it really gives you really brilliant step-by-step instructions. So a lot of the notes I would use to give to people after training are directly from the help. So don't be afraid of that. Excel is something you do need to, if you're trying to figure out a formula, you need to go to a quiet place and read what they're telling you and follow it exactly. But it is very, very good. So just to remind you that that function is there as well. Okay, so the auto sum is the one that's most commonly used. So I'm just going to show you how to use that one today. Okay, so if you're still working with me, I'm going to go on to the Mary Cunningham tab. So down at the bottom, make sure Mary Cunningham is clicked on. And we can see her expenses for April, May and June. And I want to find out how much she spent on all those things in April. So the really important thing with formula and using AutoSum is you almost must click where you want your answer to go. There's no point clicking over here and pressing AutoSum because there's no information here. So number one, always click where you want your answer to go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the AutoSum button. It's automatically set on that one. So I click it, and Excel knows exactly what's above and below it, or to the left or the right of it. And it tells me, are you trying to sum the contents of this column? And it says it's created the formula for me. So a formula in Excel always begins with an equal sign, and it says sum from B4 to B7. Okay, so here's the first cell, B4, B5, B6, B7. So that's telling it sum everything from B4 to B7. So you don't do anything, you just hit return and it calculates your formula for you. Okay, the beauty of Excel is as you change your figures or you make mistakes, it automatically updates. So it's not like a handwritten ledger where you have to rub it out and tip exit and start again. It only cares what's in the cell. It doesn't care whether it's 255 or 77. It's only adding what's in those cells. And that's the beauty of it. Okay, it adjusts as you adjust. Okay. The next really brilliant thing in Excel is that you can copy that formula automatically to May and June. Okay. So you click where it says 1560. You hold your mouse on the little green square in the bottom right hand corner, okay? And you'll see the mouse changes shape again. It changes to a clear black cross, okay? So you hold your mouse in this corner, and when you see that shape, you press down, you slowly drag across and let go. So it has automatically copied that formula over across, okay? So when I click on 1560, I can see the figure, but when I look up here to the formula bar up here, when I click into it, it's telling me that's the formula that's giving you 1560. Okay, so you don't see the number up here, you see the formula that's giving you that number. Okay, and that's really, it's really important. Okay, so I'm going to get you to again work with me. So anybody who's following along, I want you to click into cell E3 and type in the word total. Don't worry about how it's typed, and hit the return key. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to get the total travel spent in April, May and June. So I click on cell E4, that's just under where you've typed, and that's where I want the total to go. So I click there, I press my auto sum button over here, and then I hit return. And you should get 429, depending on what figures you have in. Okay. Again, if I want to copy that down, I click back on 429 and I use my little black cross and I slowly drag that down and let go. So now it's calculated the figures for April down here, May and June, and then the figures for travel, hotels, meals and journals separately. Okay, and it's adding a total of those at the bottom. Okay, so that's the most basic formula in Excel. Okay, and again, there are loads of other ones, but that's kind of the basic ones that we want to do. It is really important to know how to create a formula yourself, just bringing you back to your maths days. Okay, so again, if anybody wants to do this with me, I am just going to click into cell I8 and type in 100, hit return, and then underneath that I'm going to type in 25 and hit return. Okay, I should see those two figures there. And if I want to manually add those two cells together, this is how you construct a formula. So I want you to click on cell I10, and so that's where your formula is going to go. To start a formula, you must use your equal sign, which is up just beside the backspace on your keyboard. So when you start equals sign, that tells Excel, okay, she wants to do a formula. Okay, so the cursor is flashing now, so it's looking for information. So there's a couple of options you can do here, but I'm going to show you the easiest one. So what I want to do is I want to add this cell with the 100 in it. So I click on it and it says I8. And then I'm going to hold down my shift key on my keyboard, very near the bottom right hand left, and the plus sign, which is up beside the delete or the backspace key. So hold that down to get the plus, and then I'm going to click on the next cell. Okay. You could have hand typed those in either. You could type in I8 plus I9. And when I hit return, then it gives you the answer. What you never do in Excel, okay, is type the equal sign and type in 100 plus 25. Okay? It'll do it for you, but it's not actually adding these two figures together. It's just adding a sum. Okay, so if I change this to 50, my formula doesn't change. Okay, if I do it the other way, if I add I8 and this one, it changes it to 150, and then no matter what I put in my cell, it adjusts the formula accordingly. Okay, so that's the very basics of creating a formula. Okay, I'm just going to stop there for a second, and I just want to check people are still alive and still not bored to death. Okay, so can I just check in with people for a couple of minutes? Okay, how is everybody finding that?
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's grand. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Is the pace okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
Okay. Do people want to grab a coffee? Because it's very boring sitting listening to one person. Do you want to grab 5 minutes or a comfort break just for 5 minutes?
Stretch break, actually. It'd be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, because I know you've all. And I just finish off the kind of rest of the piece, and then we'll do a bit of Q&A. And if you have any ideas on what you might need, or if you want another session that's more in depth. Few of you were when I was at the beginning. Some of you may know this already, but it was just trying to cater for everybody in the group. So we'll have a good chat about what further you might want after this. So we'll just take 5 minutes if you don't mind, and we'll come back. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.